Hi there, welcome back. I'm David, and today I am looking at the Sennheiser MKH 8050, which is freaking tiny. It's actually in some ways even smaller than this. You see down here, there's a thread where I can disconnect it. It's kind of notoriously a bad thread, so I'm not going to unscrew it and show you. But this is the actual capsule of the microphone here. And then this is the XLR connector part. And you can use what they call an MZL cable to connect to here and to connect to here. So you move the XLR further away, and then you're dealing with just this absolutely tiny, tiny little microphone. It is a supercardioid. It is not cheap. It is part of the 8000 line, and it's pretty great. It comes with a fairly expensive add-on option. It doesn't not included with it, which is the MZF 8002. That's got a switchable low-pass filter, high-pass filter, in fact. It's got a switchable high-pass filter as well as a non-switchable high-pass filter that's down somewhere like 20 hertz or so. As always, I have tested this microphone using the same methodology. As always, I have set my peaks when speaking to be between -12 and -18. I've recorded 20 sentences that are between 1 and 9 words, testing character voices, sibilants, plosives, proximity, etc. I've normalized each sentence to between left eye of -20 and left eye of -24, so that each sentence is comparable with other microphone comparison videos I have done. Beyond that, there's no editing, no second takes, just the adjustments to balance the noise. I am, as the baseline, and I appreciate that it's a wildly different size, it's about this long. The baseline's the MKH 416, because although the successor to the MKH 416 is perhaps the MKH 60, perhaps the MKH 8060, that might be considered 2 generations later, not the 8050, it is still the closest microphone I've got, and it's the only other Sennheiser I've got that's kind of also in the hypercardioid to low bar kind of polar pattern range. As we know from the 416, it's got a similar curve to the TLM 102, which is the microphone I use most often, or did use most often until this little baby. It's got a smoother lift for clarity than the TLM 102, and given that it's quite sensitive at the bottom end, it does need some extra EQ, but it's a pretty ideal mic, pretty much the way it is. It has 13 dBA of self-noise, and I get a noise floor in these tests of -68. I adore the microphone, and if it wasn't so long, I'd use it all the time. I'm actually using it with my new setup here, so that it's the microphone that I'm currently using to record myself. Others have spotted comb filtering when I use it in my headbox here, but I don't have the ears for that. The 416 isn't cheap. It's £729 in the UK from Wex. Affiliate link is in the description. And $839 in the US from Amazon. That said, I got mine for cheaper. I did have a 416T that I spent £321 on, plus £80 for the T to P48 adapter. And the P48, which is the only one I've kept now, cost me £370 from CEX. The microphone, of course, being tested is the MKH 8050, this one. And let's have a look at the frequency response. As you can see, it is wildly sensitive. It actually runs all the way from 10 hertz to 50,000 hertz, which is crazy. You can kind of see why it's notoriously good for Foley. Given this sensitivity at the bass, I'm expecting it to be overly bass heavy with a very high noise floor. Frankly, it really needs the MZF 8002, which I talked about, the high pass filter, and that's not cheap. My light just turned off. Let's just live with it. I think it risks over-exaggerating my voice at the expense of clarity because of the kind of the lack of the lift at the top. And there's also a little bit of a drop right at the top end, which might make it sound a little bit distant. It's also got a good self-noise of 13 dBA, and oh my God, does it have a bad noise floor. It actually got me a noise floor of minus 52. This is the worst noise floor I've got in any test. Adding in a software high-pass filter drops it to 62, which says a lot about just how much is being picked up around the bass. For a long time, this has been one of a handful of my kind of dream but achievable microphones, along with the Sanken CS M1 for the size and the MKH 8060, which is my kind of dream. I mean, I do have ones I want to try that are a bit less achievable, like the CMIT Mini. But I mean, as that's unlikely to happen unless I can rent one for a review. Prices I've got for this are £999 in the UK from Wax Photo and Video. Affiliate link is in the description. And $1,499 in the US from Amazon, although I suspect you can get it cheaper than that. Again, an affiliate link is in the description. I got mine for £706 because it was a little bit battered around by the previous user, but it works perfectly. So that's that. Let's have a listen to the tests.
Cue dramatic music. Cue dramatic music. Or don't, we're not your mom. Or don't, we're not your mom. Crunchazoids. Crunchazoids. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Precision is not an option. Precision is not an option. Talk to someone who gets it. Talk to someone who gets it. I don't think we should go in there. I don't think we should go in there. I brought you a spoon. I brought you a spoon. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. I'm the best magical dog. I'm the best magical dog. All are safe under my protection. All are safe under my protection. Roll up, roll up, roll up, roll up. You just got mud on my shoes. You just got mud on my shoes. I was never in the shadows. I was never in the shadows. Client said it'd be easy. Client said it'd be easy. I'm going to count down from 3 and then... I'm going to count down from 3 and then... Kill them all. Kill them all. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. They're right behind you. They're right behind you.
As you know from my other videos, I like to test how microphones perform after processing, for which I use the first paragraph of Winnie the Pooh. That's a particularly important comparison for this microphone, where a high-pass filter is absolutely critical to its performance and to getting its noise floor down. Let's have a listen.
Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think a bit. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh.
So, what are my conclusions? Well, I love the warmth. The tone of the microphone is lovely. The size is obviously astonishing. If I had an MZL cable as well, that would make it even more ridiculously small. It's not prone to sibilance, or rather is less prone to sibilance than the 416, I think. And I think the extra bit of bass is lovely, although it does create a lot of problems. I mean, I can see why this microphone is a notorious all-rounder, good at recording any instrument, vocals, drum kit, whatever. And I can also see why this is an incredibly famous Foley mic, because, it's small, which is very convenient for Foley, and its sensitivity is wild. Despite the higher noise floor, I swear you can't tell most of the time. And I think it's got a more honest sound than the 416, although that is as good a thing as it is a bad thing. I mean, it's both. Let's have a listen to the female voice test.
I'm going to count down from 3, and then I'm going to count down from 3, and then.
As you can hear, it's kind of more honest with the voice. That's not necessarily a good thing. It absolutely takes EQing and processing to really come into its own. And it's really easy to EQ because it's so flat. More recently, I've actually started to apply a bit of a tilt and an LA2A compressor for a light touch on commercial work. And it is sounding lovely. There are things I don't like about it. It is yet another microphone that falls apart on the Piglet test. I'm not even going to play that right now. I think if you've seen any of my videos, you know that almost no microphone does well on the "I don't think we should go in there" voice. It just seems to bring out the worst in microphones. I think the proximity effect on the 416 is more flattering. Let's have a listen to both of them now.
Precision is not an option. Precision is not an option.
And even though I got it on the cheap, I'm still torn as to whether it's actually worth what I paid. I've got to be honest, part of the problem is that I got my MKH 416 so cheaply that it's competing against that at half the price of this, which is kind of unfair. They are, of course, different kinds of microphones. I mean, a fairer comparison, and one I will do when I can get one, would be the MKH 8060. Another part of the problem is I got astonishing results in my last two videos with the Octaver 12 in the cardioid capsule and the Line Audio CM4, and that has kind of broken my sense of price to quality ratio. The self-noise, that's a problem. And I don't want to spend £200 on an MZF 8002. You can't get them secondhand. I've not seen one secondhand yet. However, I did discover that there was an alternative. So in the next video, which is when I will come back and look at this microphone again, I'm going to be using a hardware high-pass filter, the inline Shure A15HP. I'll also be using it on the CM4, as it may well solve the only problem with that microphone too, as it has a similar frequency response with lots of sensitivity at the low end. So coming up in that next video, I'm going to be setting this microphone up against my other three new favorites, the Line Audio CM4, the Octaver 12 with a cardioid capsule, and the Rode NTG5. It is going to be an absolutely immense video. I will see you next time.